I'm going to call to order a special meeting of the Willington Board of Selectmen. It is September 8th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is approval of minutes. You should have a copy of the minutes from our August 2nd meeting, which was our last regular meeting.
Approve the minutes of August 2nd.
Okay, there's a motion by John,
I'll second.
seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a roll call vote.
Jaczynski,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Lexington.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, present to speak. If you are in the room or on camera and you would like to speak, I ask you to state your name for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes, please.
Okay.
Anyone present to speak? In 1 second while I change the view here.
I would like to
Sarah?
speak.
Welcome.
Okay, last night at
Just
the,
identify yourself for the record, please.
oh, sorry, Sarah Smith, 69 Eldridge Road, Willington, Connecticut. Last night at our Region 19 Board of Education meeting, a resolution was passed in support of the Juvenile Review Board. And it's for the towns of Ashford, Willington, and Mansfield. So we support the concept and the people that are trying to establish it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak? Should be able to unmute yourself, identify yourself for the record. If not, you'll have an opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. Yes, Mr. Clark.
Matthew Clark, 42 Burt Latham Road, Willington, Connecticut. Limiting to 2 minutes, there was a survey conducted by the Board of Education in 2017 that 255 Willington residents answered. So 53% of those people want a new school, and 47% of those people want Hall School renovated. It's from a survey implemented by the Board of Education. So that's plus or minus, with 255 people answering, that's plus or minus 6%. That means it's about 50-50. Half the town wants a new school, and half the town doesn't want a new school. They want a renovated school, renovated as new. So the Board of Selectmen will be voting to hold a town meeting to provide $100,000 in funding for the school building committee. So I don't understand why that petition was circulated at all. So all 6 members of the Board of Finance want to give $100,000 to the school building committee. And all 6 members voted yes. So the problem is not the money, which is the resolution we'll be taking up tonight. The problem is not funding the $100,000. The problem is that the school building committee isn't doing what the townspeople approved at a previous town meeting. The school building committee is supposed to be analyzing school building options and making recommendations to the town. So I've attended half of the school building committee meetings, and I watched the other half on video. The school building committee is not analyzing, renovating, or building wings onto Hall School at all. They're not interested in it. They haven't done any work on it. I haven't heard anything said about it at all. So I urge the Board of Selectmen to move the motion I made at the Board of Finance to town meeting. Specifically, should the town of Willington spend $50,000 analyzing new school options and $50,000 analyzing Hall School renovation as new with additional new wings options. And lastly, in closing, again, I call on the Board of Selectmen to remove the false information contained in Willington Wire. So Costa Diamandis did not indicate at the public information session held in May that his office would not pay for renovation and expansion of Hall School. He definitely prefers that, but he did not say that. When asked about renovating Hall School, his response was, "Show me a plan that I can comment on." So I'd ask that you really go back, make a new PDF and take that part out. And I'll be going to the Board of Education meeting and asking them to remove that information from their documents as well. That's not what he said. Let's be honest about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak? All right, seeing none, I will ask if you will all wait one moment while I retrieve a document. Packet, the document that I brought it into this room. I just don't know. It's all in my notes. There are some things that were in your original packet, so you want to flip through some of those things. Right. My notes. The next item on our agenda is correspondence. So the more comprehensive correspondence for you beginning next week when our new administrative assistant begins. All right, first Selectmen's report. I'll start with the steep grant for the Old Town Hall septic. We were notified 2 weeks ago, I believe, Troy, that our grant is now going to be handled by DPH, not DEEP. And that was merely due to the size of the septic that we're asking for. So DPH was going over it, and we hope to be hearing back on that soon and anticipate a springtime project committed. School building committee did not meet, so I do not have any new updates. They meet again on Wednesday, September 15th. The LOTSIP grant, that's the project running from Hall School to the Mills. Mike D'Amato informed me yesterday that they had just gotten back comments from DOT. So they're now working through those with Prime to finalize that process. The fiscal year that ended June 30th, we look to return from the town side. That's the Selectmen's budget as well as other general government. Look to return about $106,000. All right, art funds. So Troy is currently working on the senior center AC project. These are the things that we've gone to town meeting and I had approval for. I'd asked for money for 2 owl cameras. If you're in the room, you can see the one we're using tonight. If you're on camera, this new view is from the owl camera, and there is a second one that will be used in the downstairs meeting room. We're working on putting the final touches on getting that room ready for hybrid meetings. I'm working with our IT to determine the remainder of the AV needs for this room and the downstairs room, so that we have what we need, not more than what we need. We'll be ordering the additional air purifiers for this building next week, and Troy is working on the RFP for the basement project. And I hope the ad hoc committee will be meeting in the coming weeks. I've started with department heads here and asked them to take a look at the details of the art plan and bring me their wish list. Now, some of those things may fit into the parameters, some may not, but I want to take a look and see what our departments think that we need for functioning the town, and then we'll put all that together with the committee. Union negotiations, the day before we were set to meet, the union canceled our meeting, so we're hoping to meet again on September 13th, waiting for confirmation on that, so I don't have anything.
September 13th.
September 14th, sorry, September 14th. I'll give you a COVID update. As of last week, September 1st, the new numbers will come out tomorrow. We show 56% of Willington population vaccinated. That's up about 2% since our last meeting on August 2nd. In COVID cases, we have had an increase in 24 positive cases since our last meeting on August 2nd. So the state shows us at 289 total positive cases and 34 probable cases. So we are, like everyone else, seeing an increase in cases. What I don't have for you are specific breakdowns as to whether those are unvaccinated or breakthrough cases. They don't narrow down that far. The state is starting to report that information about hospitalizations, but I don't have it on this level. Staffing, I want to welcome and inform you that Nicole Snyder is our new assistant assessor. She began with us a couple of weeks ago, and beginning Monday, Kelsey Allard will be joining us staff as the first Selectmen's administrative assistant. So we look forward to working with her. Parks and Rec, we had hired a Parks and Rec director, was set to begin work mid-August, and the day before withdrew for multiple reasons. So I was very disappointed in that. I will say we've had someone intern in the Parks and Rec department, and she has been fantastic and maintaining the success in our programs. And the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission and I have been working on an interim candidate while we begin our search again, and so we're meeting with an individual tomorrow. So we hope to have that position filled shortly. Any questions, comments, Liza, John? Okay. That brings us to Public Works. So we have two specific items, but I'll let Troy share with us these general information first.
Roadside mowing is still going on, mostly on rainy days. We've been doing the trash at the park. We've been chipping brush from all the storms we've had. We've been busy paving edges and filling in the edges that have been washed out. All the catch basins in town have been cleaned. Some of them have been actually cleaned with boards. We've been taking out waterways around town. We blew off the roads a couple of times for the storm debris. We put all the docks and lifeguard chair away at Halls Pond for the season. We've been upgrading the dirt roads. We've installed a few stop signs around town that the kids keep on stealing the signs. We think that a little uptick on Yukon kids moved in there. The apartments there in the last couple of weeks. We've noticed the stop signs being stolen. Cleaned up catch basins around town multiple times. We've mowed sight lines around town. That's basically what I got.
Right, so, it's certainly discouraging to hear that folks have been stealing stop signs. Any of those things, not only do they add additional costs to the town, but for safety reasons. I'm sorry to hear that. So if you notice any of that, please reach out to Public Works so that we can make sure that the sign gets replaced as soon as possible. All right, specifically, Troy's going to give us an update first on the July storms. We didn't have, we had very limited, minimal issues from tropical storm Henri. Was it a hurricane? It was a hurricane, it was a tropical storm, it was back and forth. So the most of the damage we've seen in town came from the July rainstorms we had. So Troy,
Do you want me to give an exact amount of material we've used? or just
Sure.
number, or-
Liza, I sent this to you today, so you received that.
All right, so for material used so far since July, that first storm, washed gray stone, inch and a quarter, 282 tons, 3/4 stone, 9.60 tons, riprap modified and intermediate, 139 tons, crushed run, bank run gravel at 3.5 inch, we used 2,314.86 tons, quarry run, inch and a quarter, process, 456 tons, process aggregate, inch and a quarter, 178 tons, gravel crush run, 182 tons, class 2 asphalt, 48 tons, and that's not we're still using that. We still have use on that. That's not a true accurate number, but the 48 tons, we've been paving a lot more in the last couple of weeks. We had nights and suns trucking, 3 drivers, they did 44 hours of trucking for us. Cane material trucked in 32 truckloads of material for us. We had contractors, cane material on Willis Paving, I did several heavy damage roads, including Schofield, Daleville School, Mason Road and Liska. And then that's kind of about it. And the total spent so far is $122,052.50.
So Troy, does this encompass all of our dirt roads?
Yes. Now, all of the, like, there's still dirt roads that need some process on them. Most of them have been filled in, so they're passable. But most everything still needs, coating and process on it, so there's still an added amount there.
Right, and then there were certainly edges of roads, but how many roads total would you say this?
I would say between 25 and 30 roads that had damage on them, and that's still, we're still driving and seeing pieces that have been washed out from the rains that we keep having.
I did ask Troy to, he gave us what he spent out of his budget so far, it's 122, 5250. I think most of you know, Liza and John, that the bulk of the damage, there was a lot of damage on Liska Road and then Mason Road. Mason Road, we had that total washout and probably 4-foot section of road that went fully across the road. And so I asked Troy to give us an estimate, and this does not include the hours of labor, which included many hours of overtime. And they've spent approximately $54,629 on just Mason Road alone, and that was not the entire road. It was just about the entire dirt portion. So from Daleville Road, Daleville School to 44, almost that entire portion had significant damage. And then how far in would you say on the?
About 700 feet in.
About 700 feet to the other side. So that's a significant amount of that dirt road to put in. So this begs the question, is the 122,000 out of a budget that we did not plan this much fair on? Can you give us an update, Troy? You and I speak regularly, give the board an update on what your budget looks like as a result of these dollars.
Basically, we've used everything out of our chip seal asphalt budget. I didn't end up chip sealing this year. One, we were too far behind with the damaged roads. So I still have that. I have about 115,000 for the chip seal. That we're still, I've exhausted our asphalt budget and now I'm starting to dip into the chip seal stuff.
Some of these roads were set to be chip sealed as well.
Some of
Right?
them are.
Daleville School, I
Daleville
believe, was.
School, yeah.
As you can imagine, that couldn't be done until they were repaired. So, we're looking at two things, an incredible amount of money, and you all know we had to be done. This is your neighborhood, this is in your backyard, so you knew just how bad that road was. It was pretty it was pretty bad. The sides of the roads in many other areas are incredibly compromised just from the amount of rain that we had. There's definitely drainage issues on some roads. And I know Troy's gonna suggest to us some things, and we won't be surprised when budget season comes around and he's included some additional road work budgets. So at this point, do you think if all we do is not chip seal, so that puts us a little bit farther behind on some of those roads. If we aren't doing any chip sealing this year, there won't, unless we replenish your budget in some way, there won't be money for you to do it in the springtime either. So that concerns me. So right now, it looks like budget-wise, we're okay. His budget was able to absorb this. But what's not getting done is some roads being chip sealed. I know Daleville, there's no way it could have been done. I mean, there's significant loss of the size of the roads.
It's all been fixed now, okay, now it's. And we were scheduled to chip seal at the beginning of August, and this happened, and I had to push them off, and now we're getting late into the season to chip seal, so it's still not. I would recommend that we don't do it, if we do have the funds, once that we get the money back, or whatever it is, then we can do it in the spring, and then we can do it again in the July.
And it didn't look like these July storms, there was going to be FEMA money, especially the one that did the most damage to Mason Road was very isolated in nature. And so in order for us to qualify, it has to be a large enough area, and it just wasn't. It was pretty isolated to sections of Mansfield, Ashford, and Willington with that significant damage. So not being able to recoup some of those funds in that way is certainly discouraging. But, you know, we can do one of two things as a board. We can go back to the Board of Finance and ask for additional funds so that we can ensure that we can move forward with the chip seal projects that we know needed to be done. And I would ask Troy if he had a different plan that he was originally looking at, but or we wait and see how we go through the winter season and see what his budget looks like for spring, and determine whether or not we think we need to go back to them then. I will say that I'll be sharing this report with the Board of Finance so that they're aware of the spending that we've had so far. And the rain just keeps coming, folks. We're supposed to get some rain tonight. I hope that it doesn't, and we're certainly starting the winter season with an incredibly high water table, and the storms just seem to be, you know, worse and worse, not getting better. Liza or John? Questions, comments? Troy?
Just one thing, I want to say that thank the town of Putnam too. We had a catch basin at the corner of Mason and Daleville School that was completely blocked with, you know, gravel. So I looked into pricing out for a jet truck to come down. It was $1,600 a day. I contacted the town of Putnam. They came up, they ended up breaking it out. They did it for nothing, and that pipe is completely open now. So it alleviated all that water going actually down the road, which was causing some damage to some residents. Now it's going where the water is supposed to go. So that's taken care of.
That qualifies a 100-year storm.
Actually, I believe the state, Travis and Putnam told me that the state said it was equal to a 50-year storm.
Really?
That's, yeah, whether that's true or not, don't hold me to that, but that's what they said, it was equal to like a 50-year storm. That's-
Don't recall. I recall one other storm that we had like that about 1995 or so, maybe 94, 95. And of course that it on the other side of town got the worst part of that one. So it's one of those things really that happens.
Happy, yeah, we can't predict that.
Yeah, we're starting to see, you know, storms, climate change is real, folks. You know, storms are not, we're not seeing simpler things, we're seeing more intense weather, and I just don't see the pattern changing. Liza, did you have any comments or questions?
No, really, other than we are continually backed into the corner budget-wise when it comes to our public works and facilities needs. So once again, just the reminder that we have to be, we, meaning the Board of Selectmen, have to be paying attention to this come budget season again. And also we as the town need to be paying attention to this, the Board of Finance, because this is not the first year. This is one of the more extreme years that we've had where the Public Works Director has had to come back to us and say, we're going to be out significant amounts of money or not able to complete certain projects because our budget isn't sufficient enough. So, you know, we have to keep remembering these moments when they're important during budget discussions.
Agreed.
So are we getting to the Mason Road
We will.
paving discussions at the next?
That's the next item. I just wanted to talk about, recapping it again, the total amount of damage and cost on the July storm. Troy had said he'd come back to us with these numbers. You said that you're still seeing some invoices
Yes, we're still patching and paving in some of the roads. I mean, we're catching up probably another week and a half or so. We'll have pretty much most of everything sealed up. We're on Jared Sparks. That took a pretty good hit there. We're putting some curb down the edges there, so.
Okay.
Guys are over there to do that.
I will say, I was able to go out with Troy on Thursday morning. I think it was the heavy rain we got overnight last week. And we went to some of those most troubled areas, and the work that they did held up. So what we didn't see was damage from that rain because the adjustments that they made stood up. So water was flowing where they had hoped it was supposed to flow, and we weren't seeing it as many washouts this time. So kudos to Troy and his crew. They're a small crew, and they have been working tirelessly just to be able to fix things that happened in July. And here we are in September. I don't know if either of you caught Troy saying that they are doing that roadside mowing when it's raining. That's not typically when they'd be out there doing it, but they need every dry minute to be able to make repairs so that when it rains again, those roads hold and don't wash again. So with the small crew that we have, we can't just send someone out to do that mowing. So I know we've had some calls from residents concerned about some of the overgrown sides of the road, and they are out there working as fast as they humanly can while maintaining the rest of the roads. So again, my hats off to them. All right, so that brings us to a discussion about paving portions of Mason Road. So when that road washed, Troy and I met with our engineer. We met with Carl out the morning after the initial storm in July for a couple of reasons. And the main one was the giant hole we now had in the road, making sure that the pipe that was there wasn't compromised, and see how we would go about the repair. The pipe held, which was good news, but Carl did recommend that portions of certain dirt portions of Mason Road on both sides be paved. These are plans that he had discussed prior and brought to the town in 1993, I believe, were the documents that he shared with us. So this is not the first time this discussion has come up. And certainly I think it's a worthy discussion when we talk about from one rainstorm, we just spent almost $55,000 on that dirt road. And a lot of those dollars are going to prevent some other things from happening. So Troy?
So basically, we would pave from Millville School south 640 feet. So that would be going down the hill, past where the culvert is. There's two basins right there. So we would stop the pavement roughly about 20 feet past those basins. The opposite side heading towards 44, we would pave 1,950 feet in. That's what it would be. Both sides of the road would be curved because they are curved top catch basins. The water would then go into the catch basins instead of along the edge.
1,950 feet, would that bring you past all the houses on that?
It will bring you past the last driveway there about 20 feet past that. And that includes all the aprons for the driveways to be done.
But that would be before the Knowlton property, so it would be before that property, so it wouldn't be the rest of.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the owner of the last house is there. But it flattens out when I had the contractor out there. He said we could go into the next driveway because it kind of flattens out. You know, there was a couple 100 feet in there that, you know, for cost wise, he said it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. But if you wanna not leave the last guy out of his driveway, so he's still on dirt, go to the last driveway.
How, do we have any idea how much all this would cost?
I do have one,
About $86,000.
yeah,
About $86,000.
Really? At all?
Yes.
Well,
That's all, only 86,000.
I'm asking, are you going to have to widen the road?
some of the,
in any-
no, some of it, because the catch basins are there, so you have to be, you know, without doing all the way doing the drainage project. So some of the edges might be cut back a little bit so they can put curb in and stuff like that, but it's not gonna be any wider than what it is. It's still be a narrow road, but it'll be good.
Okay, I'm just thinking that if it is paved, narrow and paved, don't always work that well, but,
People drive down it now, so it's not, you know.
well, yeah, but
it's-
it's not paved either. Well, usually if I meet somebody there, one of us pulls over, let the other one go by. I've been talking to a few people, I really probably should take a survey, not everybody on Mason Road, I've been talking to a few people there. The opposition to paving the road is seems to be less than it was almost 30 years ago. So I might, you know, take a survey and see what other people think there.
So
Um,
it's-
Where actually paving the road itself, that would be, I think,
But
in the millions.
when we're comparing the cost that Troy's just given us to pave those small portions and the $56,000 we did just to repair what was done and the thought that it could wash again. And there are multiple catch basins on those dirt roads. Not all of our dirt roads have catch basins on them. But when the dirt washes, it's just filling up the catch basins with dirt and most of those had just been cleaned.
Yeah.
So there's an incredible expense there. And to think that this could easily happen again. Okay, I hope that the repairs that they did will hold. But for how long and for how much water is it gonna take? If we have, you know, another summer of rain like this year, I'm not sure how much it will stand up. So while I think it's important to survey the folks that live on Mason Road, it's just as important to speak to the rest of the residents who bear the entire cost of both repairing it and paving it. So all those voices are important. Liza?
Yeah, and also just the practicality. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm not an expert in engineering, right? So I would have to rely on somebody who's an expert in engineering, in roads, in how water moves on a dirt road. And if an expert is telling us and has been telling us for a couple of decades, apparently, that this section of road should be paved, I understand the desire for somebody who lives on that road to have a voice in it. However, we're talking public safety. And so in addition to extensive costs every time the road washes out. So it's an issue of public safety as well as town finances. That's, I believe, something that goes above, you know, your preference if you live on that road to keep it dirt or paved. So I think there are important questions to ask. I also think first and foremost, we need to be taking experts, public safety, and town finances into consideration.
Great. So at this point, in my opinion, the road has been repaired to where it was before. And I might argue, if you've been out there and taken a look at it, it's a little bit better than it did before. It looks pretty darn good. Maybe you probably traveled a lot, John. That this may be something that we want to put in our CIP plan. If we're looking, when we start talking about how to use ARP funds and if infrastructure projects can be done, this may be one of those things that we look at and include there. and, start looking towards us. It was, as you point out, Liza, eye-opening to have our town engineer, without hesitation, talk to me about plans that he'd already drawn up for this in 1993, and came to the town for this exact thing and discussed the why. And the why wasn't because it was expensive to repair the dirt road, that was one of them, but simply the pitch of the road was a lot of the reasoning for having it paved and not dirt. So I would like to see us, quite frankly, include this in our either CIP projects or in requests for uses with ARPA funds.
Yeah, I would like to respond to Liza about public safety. That was the main concern of the people who lived on the road, is that road, once upon a time, 200 years ago, was built to be a connection between what is now Route 44 and Route 74. And that's where a lot of the college students like to go, especially those that are going up on Ridgeview Apartments. And we get quite a racetrack there. If it's paved, we figure it would get even worse. So, and you're balancing off on public safety there. As far as cost, well, we'd have to figure out how much it's going to cost to actually pave the thing. And again, I don't know, little narrow, too narrow paved roads seem to tend to fall apart after a while, mostly because people are driving off on the sides. So I don't know, but I think I might try and talk to the people on the road and see what the general consensus is there, and see if it has changed in these intervening years.
Yeah, and again, and I think we talked about this right after the storm, both of you, and if we did, the houses, the first house from Daleville School going towards Parker, and we'd be going just past their property, so it was only one house on that side of the road, and 4 houses on the other, 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
None of them could successfully get out of their driveway after this storm. So our public works crew came in once again on a Saturday evening and then worked diligently for hours just to get enough product into those spaces so that they could get out of their driveway if need to be, and emergency equipment could get in there if there had been an ambulance or fire. So those were big public safety concerns I know we had right away. And so I take that into consideration, Liza, as well, when we're talking about public safety, the safety of those residents, and making sure that they have access in and out. So, Troy, your numbers include just the paving. I know when Carl talked to us, he suggested, although the pipe, he said, was good, and it would hold, it did its job, we just had too much water. He suggested putting in a box culvert and changing the position of where that water goes. But that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a suggestion he had, but not necessarily it needed to be done that way. It could be paved over the way that it is, correct? Okay. And so that, John, may be why you see the amount be smaller. I think Carl's original plan had a box culvert shifted up a little bit closer to Daleville School Road and at an angle different than what it is, and that would significantly increase the cost of the project. Troy's is just for paving, so we take those 2 into account, and I certainly would ask that Carl talk to us about the difference between just paving over what we have or changing the flow of water. All right, so unless I hear otherwise, I don't necessarily see us taking action on this tonight, but moving forward to move this into a future discussion at CIP or budget. All right. Troy, thank you. I'm sure it's going to be back to talk to us about more items later in the meeting. Move on to new business. The first item is a regional juvenile review board. The towns of Mansfield, Ashford, and Willington have begun talks of a juvenile review board. They've had these conversations before. Most recently, our human services and youth and social services directors in the 3 towns have been meeting to discuss this for some time. And I believe Region 19 has been having the same discussion. So I'm going to ask Jenny Arpin, who's on with us, our human services director, to talk to us about a potential regional JRB.
Thank you. Yes, this falls under the umbrella of youth services, and I've been working with my counterparts in Ashford and Mansfield for the development of a regional juvenile review board. So a juvenile review board, also known as a JRB, is basically a community-based collaborative diversion process for youth who are otherwise involved with the law or behaviors that are, you know, unsavory. And basically this process diverts them from the juvenile justice system. So in other words, if a youth commits a non-felonious crime and it's a first-time offense, then the JRB may be able to handle the situation and keep them out of the courts. A JRB is a strengths-based approach, and it uses a restorative justice methodology, which focuses on accountability through making amends as opposed to a punitive punishment kind of concept. There's about 90 JRBs in Connecticut right now, serving 135 towns. The state of Connecticut has been progressively shifting a lot of cases for truancy and runaways and things like that to JRBs, and this trend is just going to continue. So I think that as this continues, it's important that we work with our neighboring towns and be able to provide this service to Willington youth and to their families to identify their needs and to assist them in getting back on track.
Yep. I will say that our counterparts in Mansfield, although their town council has not moved a motion yet, they are ready to move in the direction of going ahead and starting the process of forming a regional JRB. Last night in Ashford, their board of selectmen unanimously agreed to move forward with working with regional partners to do so. And I'm going to ask Sarah Smith, who's on the line sheet, on the call sheet, is one of our representatives to Region 19 Board of Education. And Sarah, I believe they took this up at their meeting last night as well.
Yes, there was a resolution approved by our, I'm a board member of Region 19, and we approved a resolution to support the establishment of the juvenile review boards in the 3 towns, Ashford, Willington, and Mansfield. And there was discussion, as Jenny was talking about, one of our people on the board is going to be working as a liaison with Mansfield to establish the JRB. So we are supportive of what you know, Jenny, you and your counterparts come up with.
Thank you.
So there's certainly lots of logistical things to work out in an intermunicipal agreement or MOU between Mansfield, Ashford, and Willington, and that I think it would include our partners at Region 19. I think this kind of program is long overdue. When you hear Jenny say there are 90 JRBs in the state serving 135 communities out of 169, we're a little bit behind in this. I believe Columbia has one. I don't know if it's regional. Jenny, do you know?
I don't think Columbia is regional. Maybe they're under because is AHM.
Yeah, they may be. So
That's Andover. I can't think.
Andover, Hebrew, and Marlboro, I believe.
Yes, yes.
So what I'd be looking for, and I think Jenny as well, it sounds as though no matter what direction this board were to move in, the rest of our region is ready to move in a direction to work together. So we're either going to encourage to go forth with them, or our community will stand out and not necessarily be providing an opportunity for young folks. Jenny, who would make up this JRB? Not definitively, but in a concept, typically.
That's something that we would have to discuss, it being regional. The youth services grant that I have spells out what a makeup might look like. So it might be something along that lines. Naturally, if, let's say we had a regional board and there was one case and it was from Mansfield, then I may not necessarily need to attend. Whereas if it were a Willington case, it would make sense for me to go and advocate on and better understand and have a little bit more knowledge about Willington and our resources and barriers and that sort of thing.
Are there often, and that's one more question, then I open the floor to John and Liza, law enforcement participating in the JRB? And keep in mind that Willington does not have its own police force or resident state trooper.
Right, so referrals frequently will come from a police officer or a department that we are working with as a JRB. They also may come from the schools.
Okay,
A
but
lot
they're
of
typically part of the JRB.
Mhm.
Would they sit as part of a JRB? Would that be typical?
The school, a school
No.
representative.
No, law enforcement.
Yes, a law officer, rather a police officer or representative of the department may be involved in this, yes.
Thank you. John and Liza?
Jenny, do I remember, I think it was maybe 4 years ago that we established a youth advisory committee in town?
Yes, that's correct.
And is that, I guess that's faded away or,
Nope, it's still there. I still have it.
okay, and do you still meet?
Yes, we do. We haven't met a lot during COVID, but we will be meeting again starting next month.
Because would this be maybe a base for whoever was going to serve on this regional
That
board?
that would be a great place to get people to serve on that because they serve on the Youth Services Board in the same capacity. So the JRB is under the same umbrella as the Youth Services Board.
Did we have a retired police person on
The
the,
person, I'm sorry, John, the person that we had for a retired police officer was Pete Tanaka. And then for the past few years after his term ended, I've filed a waiver with the state of Connecticut due to the fact that we do not have a resident state trooper or a town department.
okay? Thank you.
Liza?
Yeah, I'm in strong support of this. It's something that I've worked with other towns across the state back when I worked at the Governor's Prevention Partnership. Implementation of a juvenile review board is really best practice when it comes to working with young people who are starting to show risky behaviors. And it is far better than the juvenile justice system for those who are not yet meeting that criteria, as unfortunately, our juvenile justice system tends to perpetuate
Yes.
criminal behavior, whereas the juvenile review boards really are, like Jenny was saying, are diversionary tactics and are much more likely to actually exit a young person from criminal behavior rather than keep them in those patterns of criminal behavior. So I am highly in support of this concept.
Any other comments or questions? As we've been sitting here, I have been looking at mocking up a motion and what that would look like. So I'm going to move that that we enter into discussions for an intermunicipal agreement or MOU to establish a regional juvenile review board with the towns of Ashford and Mansfield.
I'll second.
Seconded by Liza. Discussion.
Well, again, I'm hoping that our youth services board could be kind of meshed into that, and otherwise
So
okay.
So I agree with you, John. I think it's important, and I think Jenny will too. Jenny and her counterparts have been talking about this, and now it's risen to the level of the boards and commissions in the 3 towns. And so we know we have support from our youth and human services folks. All 3 town leaders were in agreement that we thought this was a good idea. I'm happy to hear that you both support this topic. And so I think what's important, and Jenny and myself will certainly advocate for making sure there is adequate equal representation from the town of Willington on this JRB. I know Jenny's committed to that. And again, they've been in discussions for some time. This is not the first time Jenny and I have talked about this. And we're both happy to see that something is finally moving in a forward direction. So this would allow us to begin working out the details amongst the 3 towns. And I would assume we'd be back to the table here before anything is finalized with an agreement before our boards.
Yes, I will be meeting with my counterparts in the other 2 towns within the next couple weeks. So I should be able to provide more information. But John, I want to assure you that I would absolutely want Willington representation, especially whenever we have a Willington case.
Well, I do want the Willington representation, but I'm not, I think we can keep it within Willington without forming a completely new board here in town to do this, because like I said, I think the youth services board should be the ones to represent us in this regional board.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote on the motion.
Correct.
Aye.
Wuchensky,
Aye.
Blessington.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Jenny, wait, no, it's late. If you don't stay on with us, we'll be okay. We will understand if you choose not to stay with us, but we welcome you to continue with.
All right, thank you.
I put her at the top of that night so that she can have some free time tonight. All right, thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is discussion of an assistant animal control officer. So in the next Hollywood Squares box, you see Tina Benheimer, who is our animal control officer, and she does an amazing job at that. However, Tina came to me with an ask, and mainly because she has acquired a job that will keep her busy on the weekends and not necessarily able to meet all of our needs as an ACO. And so what Tina has brought to us, and I've worked with Donna and working out financials, is suggesting that we appoint an assistant ACO that would work on Saturdays and Sundays. So that individual will be paid on a per diem basis, and the dollars would come from the salary of our ACO. So where Tina would now be with us Monday through Friday and continue to draw that salary Monday through Friday, the ACO on the weekends would be paid per diem. But the dollar amount budget wise would not change. We would simply be paying a Monday through Friday, a Saturday and a Sunday, and Donna and Amanda assisted in working out that match. It's about 5623 out of the line item for ACO, and we would create a second line item, take those dollars out for an assistant ACO. And Tina, feel free to jump in here. Tina has an assistant in Tolland, where she's also the animal control officer, and that's Samantha Fegan. And Samantha has filled in Willington when Tina has been out or ill on vacation and such. So before we have discussion with that, I will move to create an assistant ACO position, animal control officer position, and appoint Samantha Fegan for Saturdays and Sundays, taking funds from the dog warden salary line item. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded. Discussion. Did we just lose Tina? All right. Well, let's see if she comes back on, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Veronica?
It seems, yeah, it seems fairly straightforward. I mean, this is already somebody with whom she has a working partnership, who already does the job in another town. It doesn't cause any financial implications for us. So, I mean, unless there's something I'm not seeing, I don't have any concerns about this proposal.
Don?
No. Tina seems to be one of those
There
people
she
who
is.
does gets everything right. Somebody's gotta have time off sometime.
She does.
So-
So, I'd love to see she's taking the time off. She's taking the time off to work some, in addition, so she's working even harder.
Well, that's,
I'm sorry, I got bumped off. I just back on.
that's up to her, but anyway. Yeah, she seems to have good faith in this other person, so. It wouldn't hurt us to do, so yeah, let's do it.
Okay, and Tina has a plan where she would, the truck would be available at the dog pound, between her and Samantha, so that she would have access to that. And I know Tina's looking to find dollars in her budget for a potential phone. Tina has a cell phone. We're still talking about some of those details, but this is someone who works as the assistant ACO in Thailand. She has filled in for us here in Willington. We're just going to make that formal step of actually appointing her to cover those weekends. And then again, if she were not able to, we would find a fill-in. Typically, it might be someone from another town, and they would be paid like a fill-in, as we've done before when Samantha came to us. Tina, do you have anything to add? I know it looks like you're frozen there.
Yeah, I think she's stuck.
I think so too.
Yeah,
All right. So I will, unless there's further discussion, I will call for a vote.
Chensky,
Aye.
Blessington. Moritz.
I,
Thank you. Tax refunds. All right, I'll start. Either of you feel free to jump on in. I move to refund Christopher Beeson a certificate of correction in the amount of $312.53. Motion made, seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I,
I won't call for a roll call vote as long as you're unanimous. Tina, I don't think you voted yes in favor.
you might need to mute her. I think we're getting backlogged.
Yeah, it's not, it's funny.
Sound.
Oh, boy.
And I'm back.
Yeah, we can't mute you, Tina, and when we move forward from your agenda item. That is Tina. He says, okay, we'll talk tomorrow. All right, next item, I will, refund, I will move to refund Toyota Lease Trust, certificate of correction in the amount of $101.07.
second,
Seconded by Liza, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Motion is unanimous. I move to a refund. Oh, Lisa Lotz, is that right? Provost, a certificate of correction in the amount of $74.40.
I don't see that one.
Lisa Lotz, Provost, this one. Happy to say this now, okay.
Well, that's fine. So I don't have one for Lisa. Oh,
I have that one. It's my page 12.
It may be one of the last ones you have. I have to take it apart.
Yep.
Got it? It's probably the last
got it.
one.
Yeah, got it. Sorry.
Okay. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Motion carries unanimously. I'll move to refund Austin Montana an overpayment in the amount of $68.48. There's a second?
I'll second.
Second,
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Apologize, that's 15. All right, I move to refund Thomas Henry a certificate of correction in the amount of $35.51.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'll move to refund Ann Silphone a certificate of correction in the amount of $58.30.
I'll second.
Second,
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Carried unanimously. I'll move to refund Adriana I. Vega Molina a certificate of correction in the amount of $361.08.
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'll move to refund David or Penny Marquis a certificate of correction in the amount of $31.49.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're getting there, folks. You can tell it's tax season, right? I move to refund Eric Badan a certificate of correction in the amount of $63.82.
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund Gang Yo certificate of correction in the amount of $13.35.
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. And last, I move to refund Sean Alexander a certificate of correction in the amount of $11.22.
Second,
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, folks. All right, now they'll be busy downstairs processing. Next item, we have several appointments. A couple are new appointments and some are regular appointments to a couple of boards. So I will start with reappointing. I move to reappoint William Bunnell as a regular member of the Housing Authority effective September 8th, 2021, expiring August 1st, 2026.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I will move to appoint Heather Leblanc as a regular member of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission effective September 8th, 2021, expiring May 15th, 2024.
Second,
Was there a second?
I second.
I saw seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just noticing we have,
Do I alter the date?
we have her as going on the inland wetlands and also on the planning and zoning commission.
That is correct.
I'm not sure that's quite kosher, is it?
According to our town clerk, it is, they are able to.
Okay.
So, and these came from our town clerk. So it's up to us whether we decide that we agree to appoint them, but as whether or not they can sit on the two, yes. Is there a second to that, Cheryl?
Yeah, Liza.
Okay.
Yeah, I just noticed this, so
Mhm.
I'm kind of trying to run it through my brain here. Planning and zoning, do they ever have to approve?
Well,
Yeah, I don't know, you know, it's just, they're kind of tied in together. And having a person as a member of both boards.
I mean, certainly we've had that in the past where we've had members of somebody who's been a member of multiple boards, even for topics or, you know, commissions that overlap to some extent. This, you know, anything that is a conflict of interest is defined as something that would benefit that individual or their family financially. And this, you know, just the virtue of them sitting on the two boards doesn't do that. So I don't have any concerns about that. Certainly we know that getting volunteers for all of our boards and commissions is challenging. And if there's somebody who's willing to volunteer their time to too, I don't see a concern with that from my perspective.
this individual is looking to be a regular member of inland wetlands, and you'll see later potential motion to be an alternate on planning and zoning.
I don't have a problem with the regular member of the inland wetlands, and we never fill that alternate member of planning and zoning. We've always have, there's three, I think there's three alternate positions,
I
and
think there's one.
sometimes we're lucky if we have one
That is correct.
of those filled.
I'm happy to see someone new come out and look to be a member. I know inland, we're talking, the motion on the table is for membership to appointment to inland wetlands and watercourse commission. This is a very small board that needs more members. And we've had some members who might be ready to retire from that board and haven't necessarily done so because they want to make sure that it's still represented in town. So I'm really encouraged to see somebody come forward and willing to serve in this manner. So seeing no other discussion.
Now let's, why don't we vote on this and then we'll go and vote on the planning and zoning.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion is unanimous. I will move to appoint Heather Leblanc as an alternate member of the Planning and Zoning Commission effective September 8th, 2021, expiring December 3rd, 2024. There's a second. Seconded by Liza.
Second.
Discussion on the appointment as an alternate member of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I guess we'll find out if it's a mistake. I guess I'll vote for it. Hope it works out.
Put my trust in Robin right now. All right, now, see no other discussion. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I will move to reappoint Patrick Lord as a regular member of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission effective retroactive August 17th, 2021, expiring August 15th, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 The yeses. Motion carries unanimous. And lastly, I will move to reappoint Mark Drobny as a regular member of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission effective retroactive to August 17th, 2021, expiring August 15th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. For the record, I would like to thank all of these individuals for stepping forward or once again serving in these incredibly important roles. All right. Next item, you should have before you a request, and I apologize, it should have come to us in July. A request from the Eastern Highlands Health District for reimbursement for funds that were spent on COVID-19 vaccine clinics. So Eastern Highlands ran clinics at the Mansfield Community Center that were open to anyone, certainly members in our community. That was the closest area for them. They also provided vaccine clinics to all the schools in the Eastern Highlands Health District. So they came into Willington and did a clinic at our schools for teachers when they were first eligible. They did receive a pot of money from the original coronavirus relief fund from Mansfield's allocated portion, and that was $104,000. They're looking for reimbursement from our new set of funds, the ARPA funds, from the remainder of the towns. And they portioned out based on our population per capita of the $20,000, which would make Willington's portion request $2,197. I will mention we cannot solely with ARPA funds move to do that because our ARPA funds have to go through our legislative body. So it would have to go to town meeting like we did with other requests. So as a board, we could do one or two. We could agree to funds out of our current budget to make them whole in this manner. We could deny the request, or we could ask consideration and be included in a future town meeting for ARPA funds. So I'm going to make a motion, then we can have some discussion. So I move we request the Board of Finance allocate $2,197 of Willington's American Rescue Plan relief funds to Eastern Highlands Health District to offset costs associated with COVID-19 vaccination clinics. There's a second.
Second.
Second. So for discussion purposes, I will share with you that only one town of the member towns of Eastern Highlands has said no, and that was Bolton thus far. Other towns have already voted yes. And again, what I'm not sure about is where they took their money from, if they took it from budgets. If they have a town council, they can approve their legislative bodies may be different depending on charter. But for us, those expenditures have to go through town meeting. So what we would do is go to Board of Finance and ask them to allocate those, and it would come back to us to go on the town meeting.
Okay.
Right.
That's the way I think it should go.
In order for us to use the ARPA funds, and I think that's where the request came from, that makes the most sense. They're not asking for any town to take dollars out of their operating budgets. They're saying you got some federal dollars, if you would be willing to give some back to offset the costs of unexpected clinics. And as we know, they're gonna more than likely be getting ready to gear up for clinics for booster shots, for third shots, as those things become available. So, they may come to us later. Liza, any comments, questions?
Yeah, that's specifically what the ARPA funds really are for. So that's the way in which I would want the funding to be allocated from that pot of money, which is very much for this type of expense.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Moritz,
I
Blessington.
Aye.
Motion carries. I will communicate with Eastern Highlands, let them know that we've indicated yes, and that so long as it passes a future town meeting, then we can cut them a check. Okay. The last item of new business. Thanks for hanging in there with us, folks. We received a petition, came into my office on Friday from the town clerk. So you should have a copy of the petition. What the petition does is we have 21 days from the date it was received to hold a town meeting. And that is by state statute 7-1, basically saying that 20 or more individuals can petition a special town meeting, and that we have 21 days from the date it is received to hold it. So while we may or may not agree with the question, the contents of, we are bound to hold the meeting. And so this meeting, that's why you see this before you.
Well, I am very unhappy. I first learned about this petition yesterday when I saw the Board of Selectmen agenda. I asked for a copy of it yesterday afternoon. You told me you had emailed it to me. I went last night, looked for it. There was no copy of it. You emailed me this morning apologizing and saying you forgot to send it to me. But as far as I'm concerned, I did not have proper notice on this thing.
So we are taking action at this meeting. So the fact that you're receiving it here in the meeting, and that is where we're doing the business, it was properly warned that we were calling a town meeting. And so whether, look, the petition has come in, it's not up to us to agree to it, the contents of it, the meeting has to be held within 21 days. So with that, I will move Town of Willington notice and warning special town meeting. The electors of the town of Willington and all persons who are entitled to vote in town meeting on the matter mentioned in the following warning are hereby warned and notified to meet in town meeting, face masks required, at Hall Memorial School, 111 River Road, Willington, at 7 p.m. on Monday, September 20th, 2021, for the following purpose. Item 1, to see if the townspeople will authorize the appropriation of $101,000 from the reserve fund for the school building committee consultants as previously approved through the CIP plan by voters at the 2021-2022 annual town meeting.
A second.
Dated at Willington this 8th day of September 2021. Liza seconded. Any discussion?
Oh, there's gonna be a discussion.
Go for it,
Number one,
John. The discussion is to hold a town meeting.
And there's really no discussion. We are obligated to do this, regardless of what your perspective is. Our own policy and law requires that there's this petition. We, as the Board of Selectmen, do not have an option to say, no, we're not going to call this town meeting. This is a mechanism that is offered to the town residents. It's part of the system of checks and balances that we are obligated, if there's a petition with this number of signatures on there, we do not have the option to not call a town meeting because we might not be in support of the question. With that said,
you can discuss the call of the town meeting. That's what's for discussion.
Well, first of all, I noticed Monday, September 20th, so we're not having a Board of Selectmen meeting.
So that's something I will bring up later. We can discuss that now. The place was chosen so that we could properly hold the amount of people that may be interested in attending this town meeting and be able to have space. Typically, a town and this meeting has to be held in person. There is no hybrid option for town meeting now. That was something that we could do before. That is no longer an option currently. So it must be in person. And so this was within the 21 days, the time and place available, and our town clerks as well have a conference later in that week. Therefore, they would not be available, and our town clerks, as you might be aware, are responsible for the minutes of that meeting, so they would need to be there. So this was the date chosen.
Okay, and I personally would rather not see a town meeting held until such time as we accomplish things that have been approved by previous town meetings, like putting roofs on schools.
So, John, while I may or may not disagree with you on that, 20 citizens in this town, by petition, a petition of 20 citizens can force a special town meeting, and that's what has happened here. 20 plus individuals signed a petition.
I understand that. I also understand that this was not properly warned on the Board of Selectmen meeting when a member of the Board of Selectmen was not given a copy of this.
So the agenda is what has to be warned, and the agenda properly warned the call of a town meeting. Because you didn't see the petition, you're saying, you're disagreeing with it being warned properly.
I disagree with it being warned properly, I will, and on that grounds, I will abstain from the vote.
So once again, you'll abstain instead of taking an actual position. Okay.
Can I just say that?
Okay, then I'll vote no.
Then vote no, John. Like, if that's what you should do, if you believe that, like, take a stance, right, and say it, so the public can see what you
Okay.
are choosing to do. So then vote no.
Position here.
Here's one, I would like to do some fact checking for a quick second, because I did go back into the July 15th Board of Finance minutes, and I did notice that the vote was 3-3, that this was attempted to put through the Board of Finance through that channel. And the Board of Finance had a tie vote, which in that case, a motion will fail. Matt Clark was one of those who voted no in opposition to this proposal, or this motion. So, and that was something that is in direct conflict with something that he claimed in his present to speak earlier today. But this is what happens. The town people are paying attention to what's going on in meetings. They see something that they don't like. They have the opportunity to petition us to force the hand for this board to do something, and that's what's happening here. So this is something that is always an option for any group of citizens to organize. This is part of how the townspeople are the legislative body of the town of Willington. We are representing them. And if they're not liking the decisions that the boards and commissions are making, this is the option that's available to them, and they've used it. We don't have an option to say no.
Any further discussion on the call to town meeting?
Well, I'm happy to hear that I'm being a coward and abstaining because I don't have the option to say no. So you've talked me into it. In order to prove that I'm not a coward and abstaining, I will vote no. Go ahead.
With no further discussion, I will call for a roll call vote.
Wachowski,
Aye.
Willington,
Nay.
Moritz,
Aye.
Motion carries. I will remind you that this merely puts the question in front of the townspeople to actually vote on. And that is what went before the Board of Finance, not once, but twice. And there was never a unanimous decision by the Board of Finance. If there had been a unanimous decision, we would not be seeing a petition on this particular question. All right, moving on to old business. The discussion of business manager, assistant business manager, and the treasurer position. Donna unfortunately could not be here with us again this evening. What you do have in your packet were some additional addition she's made. One small addition she made to the minimum qualifications. She's found a course adding the Infinite Visions General Ledger Certification course within 3 years of hire being something that she'd like to see in there. And so there's a course that's Infinite Visions is the software that we currently use. And so she'd like to see that be done. Donna also included sent along with us, it's in your packet, John and Liza. I emailed that to you prior to the meeting, that gave you the outline of what the department would look like, the flow chart, and the proposed salary for this assistant. The front side, on the back side, she's giving you some detail, excuse me, as to the duties of the folks in that department. And I know we've talked about some of those concerns. The payroll personnel coordinator would take care of the payroll for the town and the Board of Education. The current account analyst would do the AP for the town, the Board of Ed, Willington Fire Department #1, Willington Hill Fire Department, and the senior housing water billing. The new assistant business manager would be responsible for ambulance payroll and ambulance accounts payable, as well as the library payroll and library accounts payable. Again, this gave the overlap of individuals in that office as well. So someone who did could cover in different instances. They would also be posting the revenue in the general ledger, posting the bank transfers for the treasurer, responsible for timely deposit of all monies received by the town and posting the revenue to the town's accounting system. On the far left, you see the elected, still leaving a treasurer position, an elected position. That treasurer would handle cash management, monitor all GL account activity, determine cash to be transferred from various funds to recover check runs, invest available funds per state statutes, prepare bank reconciliations, including activity funds, and resolve any problem with the schools, run month-end reports for the GL and all connection groups, proving out all cash accounts, and publish monthly balance sheets for the town. We'd have GL oversight, no actual posting to the general ledger. So the elected treasurer again would have that oversight, and the physical work would be done within the finance office. Therefore, clearly delineating those checks and balances. And below, you'll see currently the approved budget for 2021 is 139,430. Donna's estimate here includes the worst case, I won't say worst case, the highest paid. If we were to hire someone at step 3, then the total proposed would be 159,823, a difference of $20,393. So Donna believes with some turnover savings, she thinks she can find that $20,000 from salaries and benefits. What would need to happen if we agree to this? This job description and the breakdown is then we move forward to share this with the Board of Finance. Because at the end of the day, we would need at some point a transfer from the departments that Donna does find the funds into the accounting finance department budget. So while she may not ask for that request, she tends to ask for the transfers once towards the end of the fiscal year, although we may do this one sooner. That certainly would require Board of Finance approval. So we would want to go to the Board of Finance once we have agreed on moving forward with this new position. Comments, questions?
Maybe a couple
Or you probably have
of
multiple
last
copies.
minute changes here, which I'm
So I know we made some
not
changes.
certain on the
Sure.
position description. A bachelor's degree in accounting or business administration, and she crossed out accounting.
She does. So Donna, she worked off her old draft. I will tell you, in the last draft that would have come to you if we had met last month, says a bachelor's degree is preferred and at least 2 years increasingly responsible experience in municipal accounting or office accounting and computer operations.
Okay, well, I was going to ask why she struck out accounting.
She did not think that it required someone with a specific accounting degree.
Yeah, but if somebody, I mean, you're kind of narrowing your options here.
Okay,
And maybe I think it would be better if that was left in.
we could add that back in. The second part says, or the equivalent combination of education and experience, which demonstrate possession of the required knowledge, skills, and abilities. So I believe a little bit to Donna's question, and then John to yours, is that we have that option. So if someone came to us without an accounting degree, but with adequate experience,
Yeah. well,
either way
yeah,
would fall out.
like
So
that.
I would not be opposed to leaving in a bachelor's degree in accounting.
Is preferred. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Okay,
And also the, they crossed out interest of municipal accounting course or the equivalent, and now the infinite visions, general ledger certification, because I guess we use infinite visions.
I will tell you that this language was originally developed from another town's
Yeah,
job description, and so Donna has found something equivalent to that particular course that she feels will cover what is needed within our system. So what you couldn't find was that particular course, so not sure what that was. It may have been coursework developed within that town that they require.
Introduction to municipal accounting sounds to me like it would be,
Yeah, college course,
sophomore year, yeah, college,
maybe.
sophomore course, and that would have an equivalent.
But that was a caveat to reaching step 3 of that particular town steps.
Okay, well, I mean, it's 6 of one, and half dozen of the
Yeah.
other on that.
So I will move that we approve the assistant business manager job description with the edits made.
Second that.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Liza?
No, I agree with leaving in that language about accounting or business administration is preferred. I mean, we're talking about what we would like to see. It's not a requirement, so I agree leaving that language in is totally appropriate. Other than that, I have no other comments.
Any other discussion? I know you have lots of documents about this. We've been talking about this for a while, so keep those for record keeping purposes. All right, seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote.
Wuchensky,
Aye.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz.
Aye.
Terry, thank you. All right, old business. If you recall, in August, we had received, or July, we received a letter from a resident with concerns about the ash trees and the emerald ash borer, which we've come to know all too well around here. The individual also went to the Board of Finance to discuss this. Troy has included in your packet, Cheryl, I believe you have a copy of this as well.
I do, yes.
A report on trees and then his recommendation. So Troy?
Okay, so the month of July, we removed 88 hazardous trees, 72 of them are ash. All the brush was chipped, following roads, Moose Meadow, Blair, Marsh, Daleville School, Eldridge, and Marco. Total budget spent was $35,280. In the month of August, we removed 56 hazardous trees, 42 of them are ash. And the following roads, Daleville, Depot, Cowles, Jarrett's Parks, and Mason. Total budget $16,000, and year-to-date rated as of now is $51,280. And
So Troy's given us a plan moving forward. His suggestions.
I would, yeah, basically, the most of them are on that side of 320. I would say if we could get another 45,000 to take some of the Mason Road portion of it. Old Farms has a few, Eldridge has a few more. We can start there and come back again. Mason Road just alone has 50 of them. By you, so basically, you know, if they take 4 trees a day, that's roughly about 2 weeks worth of work. About $16,000. It's about $8,000 a week for them to remove the trees. I talked to Lyndon himself. Basically, he can't guarantee, depending on where the tree is, how many trees he can remove in one day. You know, Mason Road, he says if we close the road off, we can try to do it as fast as safely as possible. But still, some of the trees, you know, need to be roped off. Some of them need to be, you know, take longer than others. So that was a rough thing. I think if we start with the 45,000, see what happens, and come back again, see where we go from there.
My biggest concern is Troy has spent, already overspent his tree budget, taking down infected trees and trees that have come down because of storms and other damage. And it's September the 8th. It's September the 8th. We have a winter season to go through. I think we all know we're continuously seeing tree damage throughout the winter. Windstorms, etc. We'll see what tomorrow morning brings, if we do get rain and wind tonight. So my biggest concern is that there's nothing left in his tree budget. He would have to shift resources from an already tightened budget just to be able to take trees down that have to be removed, regardless of if we didn't have this infestation or if we were able to get it all of it. So I think I'm not sure how, again, I think it's the right thing to do is to go back to the Board of Finance and ask them for additional funds. We haven't overspent his budget yet. But I just don't know where we'd find $42,000 just for trees. One of the suggestions from the resident who wrote us a letter was that we come up with a waiver system to take down trees on residents' property. Troy's saying to us, I need at least another $45,000 to safely get us through the spring and then regroup again in April and maybe need more. I'm not sure how we could realistically come up with a number on the board to be done taking down trees on residents' property. I know how expensive they can be. I certainly am sympathetic to the fact that that could be an expense for residents, but from the town's perspective, I'm just not sure how we could possibly implement something like that. Additional liability on individuals' property and the additional cost now borne of all of the residents of Willington. So, thoughts? Fine.
It's the same as last meeting, my thoughts. We either have to spend the money now in taking the trees down and prevention, or spend the money later in repairing the damage that they do when they fall. So as we discussed earlier, when we were talking about the roads, we can, and I think I said last meeting, we keep putting Band-Aids on the issues instead of actually repairing them and preventing damage from happening in the first place. So again, we had the opportunity this past budget season to increase some of these line items, the roads, the trees, all of that. And I think at the Board of Finance levels, some of this money was pulled back. And I think what we're seeing is that the request that was made by the head of the department was actually quite well informed, and we should probably have listened closer, at least at the level at which it was removed from the budget. And we need to really strongly consider doing our ounce of prevention to avoid the pound of cure that I was talking about last meeting as well. So I think in some way we've got to go find some of this money to prevent road more significant damage and possibly injury to our human our residents here. So I don't think we have an option.
It's like a perfect storm here. We're not only having rainstorms, but at the same time, we're having the tree issue. Now, if this were 100 years ago, you wouldn't be taking down ash trees, you'd be taking down chestnuts. And 80 years ago, you would have been taking down elms. And it's one of those things that's happened, and we're going to have to put the money out necessary. As far as citizens, I'm sorry for them. I can't agree with the letter that I don't think the town can afford to or should be taking down trees that are actually on citizens' property. They're going to have to deal with it. I don't think we'd have to ask them if we offered it, because who wants a dead tree? But
Right.
We can't afford that. I know there's a couple of trees on 6 Mason Road, I think it is. They got a huge dead ash tree there. When it comes down, if it comes down toward the road, that's going to be a big one. If it comes down another direction, then that's going to be the homeowner's problem.
I mean, I don't want to see anyone adversely affected by this, but the reality is, with all of the shortcomings that we have, I just don't know how we could bore that expense. Pardon the bore pun here. The rest of you who are getting a vivid description Troy gives us of the hatching and laying of eggs within the tree. So thank you for that.
We've had
At the town clerk.
At the town
If
clerk's
you come
office.
into the town clerk's office, there's a visual for you as well.
It's a great
Liza?
I'll pass on seeing any visuals of boars or whatever. So I'm confused. What is the question then? So you were talking about on residents' property?
Right, so one of the items in the suggested plan that we received, and I believe it was item number 6, create a waiver system for the town and residents, allowing the town to remove
That's right.
may be on residential property but are dead and an immediate threat to roads and electrical lines. So we are working with Eversource. There isn't anything that they're currently working on, but I haven't taken that as a final answer. So we'll be talking with them further about potentially partnering to take care of some. So there's still a possibility. They work in very specific areas. And we are past their schedule. They've already come through and done some, but again, I'm not taking that as a simple answer. So working with our community liaisons at Eversource to further the conversation. So I'll just keep going until they start again, and then we'll start the conversation again to see if there's anything that they can work with us on.
Oh, by the way, how are we, you said my area is worse infested. How badly are the other areas in town?
Not too bad. I mean, they're sporadic, but it seems like on that side.
Do they maybe not have as many ash trees as we have?
Yeah, I think that's, they're here and there, but they're not as bad as over there. It seems like they're more on that
Because
side.
every time I see an ash tree, it looks like it's down, but I don't see quite that many.
Yeah,
Like Old Cemetery Road had quite a few. I don't know if those have come down yet.
yeah, no, those have,
Yeah, like, so they're little
Yeah, I haven't
pockets,
looked
but yeah, not unless you're really going to the cemetery or to that one, now there's a business there. You wouldn't see them on the tour Troy took me on when this first came up in the spring.
Are they on the road or are they?
No,
Back.
they're ours. No, we're the winner. So, there's certainly, I definitely see them in pocketed areas. My portion of town, I don't see them nearly as much. And if you look at the list Troy gave us, you'll see they tend to be in that one this side of town. So,
And some of those trees that were anomal ash were the oaks that the gypsy moth, took down. Some were pines that were dead, that was.
Got a couple oaks and
Oh,
we'll take it
yeah.
down because of the gypsy moths.
And if there is a chunk like the tree services, if the ash is say leaning towards into the woods and it's not causing harm, they'll take in like the limbs off of it. So if it was to fall, it will fall into the woods instead of removing the whole tree.
Yeah.
So there is a cost savings there, but I mean, most of the time the tree is removed right down to the stump.
so it sounds like we're in agreement whether or not we're going to take formal action on a request for Troy's initial request of $45,000.
And that's just a small amount. I mean, that's, I don't have
I
it
think
costs 300, 400.
I think last year you said to us it could be $250,000.
Yeah.
And we gave them 50,000 for everything, not just this particular project. So I will move that we request an additional $45,000 from the Board of Finance for tree removal for tree damage from the emerald ash borer.
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Lawrence,
Aye.
Lexington.
Aye.
Brings us to present to speak. If anyone is present to speak, I ask you should be able to unmute yourself. Anyone in the room, raise your hand. Identify yourself for the record. You have 2 minutes to speak. Was there anyone present to speak? In the room?
Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. Good evening. I want to enthusiastically agree with the first selectman in honoring the petition tonight for a town meeting. The town meeting is fundamental to our form of government and is our legislative body. And I would never want that to be disrupted in any way. I would note that the board appears to view some legislative actions by our town more enthusiastically than others. And I wish it was more consistent. And I want to object strongly tonight to the fact that John Blessington, who's a member of the Board of Selectmen, did not receive this information in a timely manner. It's important for all our elected representatives to receive that information and be able to prepare for the meetings properly. And John was not afforded that opportunity in this case. And I would request that not happen in the future. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else present to speak? Buick.
Jim Bulick, Laurel Drive. I also agree that the town residents have a right to petition for town meeting. That is a fundamental right and all that. I'm very concerned that many residents feel that they need to submit a petition to town government to do their jobs. I don't think anybody's questioning the $100,000 that's allocated in budget, but there seems to be a lot of questions about a procedure. What's the school building committee charge? How do I get money from the Board of Finance? What does, the various questions that the Board of Finance is asking. And I think, Erica, you have some responsibility in that confusion in causing some of that. Even just this evening, when you went and talked about the petition, I got a copy of that, and they requested $100,000, not $101,000. So you're just perpetuating this confusion, this miscommunication, and I think we need to be a little more careful about what we're communicating to the townspeople. Thank you.
Anyone else present to speak? Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I thought that we would pay closer attention to what's going on over the Board of Finance, and the Board of Selectmen would represent that clearly and honestly. There were two motions made at Board of Finance meetings. One was to fund the school building committee for $100,000 for consultants. The vote was 3-3. It failed. The other was to fund $100,000 for consultants, specifying that half of the money goes to a new school analysis and half goes to analyzing and renovating Hall School as new. That motion also failed, 3-3. So you have all the people, all the members of the Board of Finance voted yes to one of those motions. So to say that it didn't happen that way is not true.
I didn't get his address. Mr. Chensky?
It's your address, Mr. Clark, for the record.
Oh, 42 Burt Latham Road, Willington.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present to speak? I don't normally respond to present to speak. I will make the comment. Ms. Boris, did you receive the email with the petition prior to this meeting?
I received 2 emails, one with the full packet of the agenda saying that the petition was attached, but it was not. We then reached out to Erica, and then she attached the petition to a next email, which I received either last night or this morning.
Thank you. I just want to be clear, Mr. Blessington, Selectman Blessington was not singled out. It was an error in attachment, and both selectmen received it initially at the same time. All right. Anyone else present to speak? All right. I will have several items for good and welfare. I certainly understand if you don't want to wait for our executive session. This is a special meeting, so I cannot change the order of the meeting. So I don't anticipate our executive session being long. However, I'll have to put you all into a waiting room while we hold that executive session. So I will move to enter into executive session for the matter of the pending Talmadge property purchase, and invite Carol Jordan.
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So what I will do is, for those of you that are on the call, I will move you into the waiting room, and when we come back from executive session, I will allow you back in. If you give me a moment while I individually put you in a waiting room. Those of you who are in the room have to exit the room. Because Ms. Boris is not physically present, we need this screen to keep her in here with us. So I will ask you, everyone except Ms. Jordan, to exit the room. There are no minutes taken during executive session. Again, I don't anticipate it being very long. Okay. last one out, if you'll close that door for me, I'd appreciate it.
But don't go out the lights.
But don't turn off the lights, it's already hot in here. I thank you, Ms. Jordan, for being very patient with us.
Listening to the changes in the financial structure.
Interesting. So, okay, oh, let me stop the recording, pause the recording. I'm going to pause the recording. The recording, and let's let these folks back in. I'm going to, now that we're out of executive session, I'm going to text the folks, hopefully someone who's still in the hallway has their phone. We don't know if it's still, Cheryl's still here. Morning, Secretary. All right, so 8:30, oops, let me let in one more. Thanks for staying with us, folks. We had an internet snafu where Ms. Boards became the host of the meeting and the only one there for a moment. Is it raining outside? Does anyone know? Like, we can't even tell from in here. It's not weather related. All right, I'm just going to run to the door and see if these folks are still up here. Anyone on the left? All right. Get our board secretary back in with us. We came out of executive session, Cheryl, at 8:39.
Okay.
Okay, we are now back with us. Still discussing executive session item. Any motions?
Make a motion that the first selectman be authorized to negotiate the purchase of the town's property on behalf of the town.
Is there a second?
Second,
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call for a vote.
Wachensky,
Aye.
Blessington,
Aye.
Forbes.
aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you for hanging in with us. I'll move us to good and welfare. All right, I don't have August numbers, but I have July numbers from Troop C. We had a total of 337 calls for service. In July, that included 15 accidents, 15 criminal investigations, and 249 non-reportable matters and 2 arrests. Motor vehicle enforcement was a total of 59 traffic stops, 1 on-site DUI, 0 arrests, 1 misdemeanor summons, 20 infractions, 10 written warnings, and 28 verbal warnings. The Willington Historical Society is having their annual meeting and presentation on Friday, September 24th at 7 p.m. It'll be here in this room. It's free and open to the public, and face masks are required. The presentation will be on the Town of Iron Toys, the mechanical banks of the J&E Stevens Company, by Richard Franklin Donahue. We'll share this in a public notice and on our website, so encourage all to attend. Want to remind folks that our Human Services Department is now located in the Senior Center, but for at least for now, because of space, the food pantry is still here, and food distribution such as food share and bread are still being done here at the town office building. And the next mobile food share will be next Wednesday, September 15th from 11 to 11:30. The topic of our next meeting, since the town meeting is the 20th, I have 2 suggestions. One is that we attempt prior to that meeting to hold a very short meeting. We do have 2 items, 2 contracts, bids that need to be awarded, and our town clerk has something that will need to be done before the end of the month. I think it would be very hectic in that same place to try to hold a meeting prior to that. If not, we could hold a special meeting the week of the 20th of September. If that's preferable, I just ask you to send your availabilities along to my office starting Monday. Kelsey Allard will be, you'll be able to contact Kelsey. And we'll send you her email, but as usual, it'll be kallard@willingtoncc.org. Once again, as we navigate this COVID world, I ask you if you can support our small businesses and restaurants, please do so. I really want to give a special thank you to Sophia Milos. She stepped in an interim vacancy in the Parks and Rec department when our rec director left. She's been an incredibly valuable member of our team and our community. No doubt this young woman is going to do great things in her future. But first, she is going back to college. She's leaving next week. She's leaving us after tomorrow, and she's heading for a semester abroad. So please join me in thanking Sophia and wishing her luck. She trust me when I tell you, she's going to do great things, that one. So, and I want to thank Cheryl Mitchell, who was willing to step up and help us with our meetings in the absence of administrative assistant. This would be her last regular hurrah with us. So thank you. Certainly Cheryl for calling, answering the call when we needed you. So
Very well.
with that, I thank you all for staying on with us. John, do you have any good and welfare? Well, Willington Day was great. It was great to see everybody. It was great to see folks in person. It was great to be out in our community again. I think we really, really needed that. It was, and so I want to thank Sarah Reese and her entire committee. Melissa McKinnon came back to Willington and jumped right back into Willington Day. And it was a great event after a long time of not being together. So thank them for that. John, any good welfare?
Well, I was gonna talk about Willington today,
It was great. It really was. It was great to see people, and you know, I know we're all certainly cautious of everyone's health and wellness in our community, but it sure did feel good to just to be together in the same place. So thank you to everyone who made that event possible. And with that, I would move to adjourn at 8:46.
Second.
Seconded by John. Discussion, this is a non-debatable matter. Ms. Boris has left us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thank you. Go forth with the rest of your evening, folks.
Yeah, we're gonna need to